It was a great free agency for the Houston Texans. Nick Caserio made a lot of moves, but now it's time to look ahead to the NFL draft. Still some holes to fill and a potential crazy trade up that I could see happening, a potential trade back. A lot of things the Texans can do. But as far as the big names of the draft, I'm not too sure if they're going to go with any flashy picks. You've seen Nick Caserio do it in the past, but we're going to break down a 7th-round mock draft for you today. And if you're new to Texans Digest, hit that sub button. Got a lot of love on the last video. Just really appreciate all the support. Drop your comments right now. What do the Texans do? We've kind of been talking about it in the last video's comments as to what the position and needs are. And honestly, as much as they need a tackle, I really do believe they take a wide receiver with their first pick. Because if there is a possibility that Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka, or Luther Burden fall to 25, I don't think there's a possibility that the Texans pass up on that. Now, there is a potential possibility that they want to find the right fit at wide receiver, so I could see them trading back. However, if Emeka Egbuka is sitting right there in a mock draft, I'm not going to pass that up. So Egbuka is the first pick for the Texans for me. Now, I'm going to give another scenario later where they could take another tackle and how that draft can go a little bit differently. But there's this underrated tackle that they might acquire later in the draft who we will speak upon in a little bit. But for the Texans' first-round pick, if they take a wide receiver, it's almost inevitable that they need to trade back up into the second round. And this is where I really wouldn't be surprised if they trade back up. And the only reason I say that is because they traded Laremy Tunsil for a reason. They got a second rounder next year. Why not use it, right? You got a second rounder for a reason. So give up a second rounder, trade up about 10, 20 spots with the Titans, and why not get your guy, Donovan Jackson, to fill the interior and be the guy for the future. Laken Tomlinson, 33 years old. He's just a veteran piece. So that's what I think the Texans do. They could very well take Jackson at 25, but that's the pick for me at 35, trading up. Very, very big deal for the Texans to trade up in the second round if they do get a wide receiver. Now, here's where I have a couple problems in the third round. Pick 79 and 89. I mean, you got to consider this is a pretty big jump. If the Texans do trade up, that's a 30-plus point pick swing. So there's a lot of things that I don't think the Texans will trade up from 79, but I could see Caserio packaging 79 and 89 to trade up for a potential tackle if they don't think they're going to get their guy. But overall, here's what you're looking at. As far as the third pick, you need a tackle, you need a running back. And the running backs that are available, people want to take, as far as the comments that I saw in the last video, Cam Skattebo is a possibility. And I don't hate that. That's a great replacement for Joe Mixon for the future. But honestly, you want to find the right scheme fit. You want to find a speedy back. And to be completely honest, I would not be surprised at all if Nick Caserio takes a running back in round 5 or later. Because look at how many running backs there are. DJ Giddens, Dylan Sampson, Byshul Tuttle, who's an absolute monster, ran a 4.3 240. Ollie Gordon, Devin Neal, RJ Harvey, Trevor Etienne. And even later, they have a lot of other options. So I don't think the Texans need to take a running back at 79 or 89. 166 plus, they're probably going to take somebody to help back up and maybe a receiving back for Joe Mixon. Regardless, this pick is going to be a tackle, and I love Ozzie Trapillo. It might be a B, but the guy from Boston College, just listen to this. He is 6'8", 316. There's no reason the Texans shouldn't draft him. And the best part about it is he can sit right behind Cam Robinson as a blindside tackle, learn a little bit, and with his size, with his athleticism, his pass blocking is absolute shutdown. Run blocking got to work on it a little bit. But as far as what I've seen, I mean, on tape, this guy is a monster and could be a huge piece on the offensive line. Fall into the third round for a reason, but Nick Caserio has some connection with the coaching staff, so that's what I'm hearing as far as the insides. Now, shout out the comment that actually pointed that out, but Trapillo, that's the pick there. And I love it because that's kind of what their Texans are going to do in the third round, is what I think, unless they reach on him for the second round pick. But it's either that or Emory Jones, in my opinion. So looking at this kind of draft so far, I really think this makes the most sense to me, because you have Royals, who I was thinking about also in the later draft that we'll show you. But 89th pick, we're going to go with a different name, and I'll just show you the end of the mock. But Gunnar Helm from Texas took a tight end, then took Devin Neal in the later rounds. Devin Neal fell all the way to 166. You got to snag him there. And pick 236 plus. I'm not the biggest knowledge, but Shiloh, get another receiver, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Not a bad idea. Now, the other mock draft that we did, I like Tim Smith. Here's the thing. The later rounds are not there for the right reasons. But I'm going to talk about some middle round guys that the Texans could very easily target. And right here, Baishal Tuttle. Absolute monster. I mean, talk about his speed. 4.3, 240. That's a guy who could fit well running next to Joe Mixon. Tuttle. I can't really speak today if you couldn't tell. Baishal Tutin. I don't know why I pronounced his name wrong the first time, but Baishal Tutin. 4.3, 240. I mean, is there anything really much more to say about him? And he's going in the third, fourth round. I know the Texans don't have a fourth round pick. They got 2/3. But, I mean, if a running back were to fall, this is your guy you want to go for. As far as another underrated kind of pick, Cam Jackson, 6'6", somebody who can plug up the middle. I really do think defensive tackle is a bigger need. Yes, Sheldon Rankings is there, but you do want some more help, at least I would say. And Restrepo, another guy, I think in the middle rounds, you have Royals as well, Xavier Royals. So I'm a big fan of that as well. It's just a matter of who do you want as the right scheme fit. Jalen Royals is also a beast. Ran a 4.3, 240. Somebody else to look out for. Jaden Higgins, I really don't mind this pick either. Another guy in the second round that they could potentially snag. He's 6'4". He can go up and get the jump ball. I feel like if you're not going to go get a speedy guy in Royals or Restrepo, Higgins is another guy you can put right on the right of Nico Collins. The problem is he's a tall guy, so it's like, do you want to have a Nico Collins and a Jaden Higgins and then Christian Kirk? Do you want to have two big number ones and then somebody else in the slot? I feel like another shifty guy on the outside would be a great number 2 to complement Higgins. But I feel like Higgins has also got that potential. So Emory Jones talked about it as a tackle, but him and Trapillo, just two absolute monsters in terms of their height and ability to block. 83 athleticism, 75 athleticism in terms of the scouting for both of those tackles. A lot to look forward to for the Texans, but this was the other mock draft that I put together, and it's a lot of difference in terms of taking a tackle or interior offensive lineman in Donovan Jackson with the first overall pick in 25. And if all the receivers are gone and they do take Jackson, maybe they trade back and to 30, but they might not want to risk Jackson going, so they might just take him at 25. And that was the thing with Kenyon Green that I didn't like, is they reached on him at 15 when he was arguably a mid-second round pick. And then Zion Johnson, the guy I wanted to take originally in that draft, who would have fit perfectly on that offensive line, is a Charger. Went the pick after, or one or two picks after, which I was so frustrated about. But Donovan Jackson first pick, Restrepo the second, Cam Scadaboo, I did something different. I took a running back third round just to see what the potential possibilities would be. Still got Trapillo at 89. Took a D-line and Tim Smith in the fifth round, Jordan Hancock. I just feel like there's no reason you can't take a running back in the later rounds, right? Scadaboo is great, and he could be a great player for years to come. But you don't need him right now in this second. You could go get him, a similar caliber player in Devin Neal, or I love RJ Harvey in the fifth or sixth round. That's something you could really do. So a lot of running backs are going to drop. This is a very deep running back class. And honestly, I just don't feel the need to take a running back with a crucial third round pick. Now, the craziest thing I could see Nick Caserio doing is packaging, and I said this, but packaging 89 and 79 to trade up for a potential player. I don't know who it's going to be. I feel like if they're set on Trapillo, the 6'8" tackle, 6'8", that is something to look out for. But he can sit right behind Robinson. We already said this, but what specific player is Nick Caserio looking for? That's what you have to ask yourself. And honestly, I see a wide receiver being taken 25th overall. I talked about maybe a tackle in Simmons, but will they go that route? I mean, he might fall to the second round because teams are worried about his injury. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And then do you get your guy Royals in the second round or the third round? I mean, it's just a whole bunch of scenarios you toss up in the air and you're just like, what are the Texans going to do? What do they want? What are they going to try and improve on? right? So there's just a lot of question marks as to how they get more depth at the wide receiver position. I wouldn't really be surprised if they took a wide receiver in the first round and then a wide receiver later, like a Keandre Lambert-Smith to end the draft, because why not have that extra wide receiver depth and a guy who's pretty crafty, pretty good route runner there. But the only trade-up that I really did was with Tennessee. I don't know if they would do a division swap, but I gave them a second-round pick next year, 2026. I think it's a great idea. So I actually gave them a second and a fifth next year because the trade wouldn't go through just for a second, and a bunch of swaps. So I did a 7th-round swap next year. But that is regardless of the point. There's no need to even talk about that. So the needs for me right now, and we talked about it last video, but it's really tough because Ibuka, I would love a receiver. So we'll go wide receiver 1, offensive line. I don't know what order. Interior probably first because I want to replace Tomlinson. You have a Blake Fisher behind Trent Brown, so that could be good. And then you could just draft another guy in Trapillo who could be a monster. There's a lot to look forward to for the Texans. It's just a matter of scouting the right guys, and if I'm confident in anybody, it's Caserio. He took Henry Tuotu, about 3rd round area as well, who I was another big fan of, the Alabama linebacker that was really happy they took him. The only guy I'm really disappointed we missed out on who went pretty higher than I expected was Nick Bonita, who went to the Denver Broncos and now is a stud. But we got our guy in Will Anderson, so I'm not too worried there. Overall, I'm still rambling, but ideally, this is what I think the Texans are going to do. They're going to take a wide receiver in the 1st round, and if there's not Ibuka, Golden, or Luther Burden, one of those 3 receivers there at 25, they're most likely to trade back to 30 or get their guy in Donovan Jackson, or get a guy in Royals next. So there's a lot of things you could do. Jalen Royals has been the name that has been thrown around a lot in the comments. So as well as looking in the Texans research, it's just another name, but a lot to do for the Texans. First 3 picks are probably going to be wide receiver, offensive line. It's really what I'm looking for. And then the 79-89 range, I'm really interested to see what Caserio does, because running back is a need because Mixon is getting up there and you want to get a franchise running back, but I just don't think it's in the first 4 picks. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. And this has been a 7-round mock. I did 2 of them, so we'll put both of them on the screen for you guys. But in terms of a well-rounded out draft, there's going to be a lot of offense taken, so don't expect a lot of defense. I did a little defense at the end here just because they need some cornerback depth, they need some linebacker help, they need some interior defensive line help, as well as offensive line, running back, receiver. So there you go. Appreciate everyone watching. Comment down below things the Texans are going to try, and we'll catch you in the next video. And just hit that sub button if you're new. There's a lot to look forward to, Texans Digest. But it's been Mike Zanetti, Texans Digest. Thank you for watching. Appreciate all the support, and we'll see you in the next video.